we're gonna talk. Today we're gonna talk about some common mistakes that I see in MTTs and how we can fix them using PartyPoker Academy. Last time we focused mostly on GPV as far as I remember, and today we're gonna do something different. We're gonna look at spots when where there is some risk premium involved, some soft ICM with like 25% field left, 17% field left. And we're going to look at some final tables as well, and try to find some like spots where in my opinion population is playing a little bit wrong, and how we can quickly recognize if we are doing the same in our game, and try to think about how we can improve that in future. We're going to use, I guess, Discord chat for any questions at any time. So feel free to ask whatever you want at any time. So we're going to start first with soft ICM, meaning that like we're not playing final tables. We're going to look from like 50% of the field, 25% of the field, 17%, and yeah, there's going to be different risk premiums, and we're going to look at common mistakes. In my opinion, these are the three common mistakes that I see in soft ICM pre-flop spots. It's that people are calling 3-bets a little bit too much. So the problem with calling 3-bets is that now we have risk premium post-flop, so we are not like our bluff catchers doesn't really perform that well, because we have an extra price to pay because of the ICM. So this is why we're switching from calling to like a little bit more forwarding, so putting the pressure back to the other guy, right? Like instead of calling, like we're gonna switch more to forwards, and this is what I think population is missing. And yeah, again, defending multi-way too wide. So multi-way, there is more people involved. There is like the ranges are usually going to be stronger, and our equity realization is going to be pretty low. So we need to be careful about how wide we continue multi-way. Okay, so the first spot we're going to take a look at is going to be at 25% of the field. That's usually going to be, from my experience, risk premium between like 4 and 6-7% when they have when we have each same stacks. So the first spot is like 40 blinds cutoff versus 3-bet from the button, and on the left you can see GPV, where we just keep calling like stuff like even Queen 8 suited, 10 8 suited, 9 7 suited is mixing 8 7 suited. However, when we're playing with ICM on the, as you can see on the right side, we're not calling like stuff like ace 10 off anymore, ace jack off anymore, king jack off anymore. We are just switching to a little bit more 4-bets and way more folding. So folding goes from like 40% to 60%, but the difference is like all in goes to 25% instead of 19 here. And we can see it here a little bit more clear side by side. So yeah, I think this is where I think a population is playing a little bit wrong, where like if you still keep calling like this same GPV range, you're just going to end up check folding a lot of post flop, because like your stuff are going to be dominated a lot by buttons 3-bet range. Instead of that, you can just switch to going all in a little bit more with some hands, and even you can introduce 4-bet Donald. So yeah, it's just going to be a smarter way to play rather than going post-flop with a wide calling range. So this is going to be for 40 big blinds. The next spot. So any questions? Okay, we'll see. Yeah. So as for like for normal sizing, you can go pretty small. The thing is, like he also, when we have each 40 big blinds, right? He is also going to have risk premium, right? So it's not going to be that profitable to call 4-bets because the SPR is going to be low, and bluff catching again is going to have risk premium involved, meaning that he just can't bluff catch that much. It's just not going to be that great. So small four bets are going to be pretty good in any spots that involve ICM and risk premium. Still feel that on final table they work better than, yeah, like on final table for sure. Yeah, that they're going to be way better than earlier, because people are not going to be calling because of the risk. On final table, usually you're going to look at high risk premiums, and people are not going to be calling your four bets that much, so you can four bet not only in with a wider range. Also, like, it's important to make adjustments, like think about who is going to do what. Be aware of your opponents, be aware of your own image, and like if you go wide with bluffs, go wide with value as well. And yeah, just has to do a lot with in-game adjustments. But like what we are trying to do now is to just get idea of how equilibrium is working, and then like how we can figure out in game how we can deviate from that. But it's important to get some kind of mechanics, how it should work in equilibrium, and then we can make our own adjustments in game. So the next spot we're going to look is 30 big blinds, same again, 25% field. And as you can see, that the lower we go with the lower we go with blinds, the less calling is going to be. Like at 30 big blinds, there is almost no calling. This is against 3x 3 bet. So if we open and face 3x 3 bet, there is not going to be really any calls. And this is a common scenario, I think, that you face 3x 3 bet when you open from the bottom with 30 big blinds. Wait, I'm sorry, when you open from the cutoff with 30 big blinds, face 3x 3 bet. In chip PV, we get to call pretty wide, as you can see here. However, when there is ICM involved, we don't really get to call that wide, but instead we go to jamming way wider, right? So instead of like calling and letting them see the range is going to have so many bluffs, and I think it's just going to be realistic in game. So let's take a quick look about at the ranges. So for example, at 30 big blinds with a 25% field, when everyone has same stacks, cutoff against button. So if you look at the ranges of what button should 3-bet, I think these ranges are pretty realistic. I think some people are going to go even wider. So ace 10 off is 3-betting half of the time. I can easily see people seeing ace 10 off and 3-betting every single time. Then like ace 9 off is never 3-betting here, but I can see people 3-betting way wider with these kind of combinations. And I think this is a really a hot spot, basically, where you can just 4-bet jam quite wide, like at least this range here. And I think it's just going to work really great against most of the field. When we're in PQs, we 4-bet jam. Yeah, in PQs it's going to be way different, because like you know what's the difference in PQs? So in PQs with ICM, for example, we're going to have, when we're smaller stack, we're going to have risk premium, but the bigger stack is going to have discounted risk premium, because he gets to win our bounty. So it's going to be different mechanics, and that's something we can talk about next time. But yeah, the ranges are going to be different. But for now, staying with just non-PKO tournaments, I think this is one of the spots where we should be way more aggressive with 4-bet jamming, and way more passive, way more basically like way more folding to 3-bets, like basically play close to fold. I mean, it's not going to be like that, because sometimes we're going to face smaller sizes. We can still call some hands, and we can deviate from this, obviously. But I think the main adjustments is to do more 4-bet jamming, and yeah, less calling with stuff like, especially with stuff that are like easily dominated, like queen jack off or like queen 8 suited and stuff, right? Okay, so next up, any questions about this? Let's see if there is any questions about this 30 big blind stuff. So we're looking at cutoff versus button. Is there anything that doesn't look correct to you guys here? This ace jack off is interesting for me. Okay. So ace jack off folding instead of like jamming, I think that has to do with like, I think you can make like ace jack off. Maybe he's more cool. Yeah, like if you look at the ranges, so this is here. Yeah, this is the range that we see from the bottom, and I can see people being a little bit wider than this, and if you increase this range, I think we can see ace jack start doing something else, probably jamming, but it's just, can we see the risk premium somewhere? I think for now it is not possible, but this is something that guys are working at. I don't know, maybe they updated already. I would not know that, but as for now, yeah, there is going to be, yeah, we can see risk premiums at final table six. Okay. Yeah, what is interesting to me is like these queen jack, king jack suited type hands, queen 10 suited, king 10 suited. So instead of like going post flop, we can fold out stuff that we're dominated by, like a king jack off, king queen off, ace 10 off. So I think this is kind of a pretty nice spot that most people, I think, forget. Instead of like calling with this stuff that are going to be easily dominated, with these stack sizes, we can just jam and yeah, like do well against, I mean, well, do okay against their ace kings, and yeah, like we're going to be pretty in a bad shape against their value part. But yeah, it's just going to be easily over bluffs, but it's again important to pay attention, like who is doing what, and if players are aggressive enough. Maybe in some games there is going to be a lot of like players that are not aggressive enough, and it easily changes. So like if you run your own sims and node lock, which I think is very important. So if you change few stuff, if you remove just ace 5 off and ace 4 off here, like it will go from jamming this to jamming nothing, basically, to jamming like 8 ace queen, you know. So it's like very important to know like your population, and what we are doing now is just trying to figure out how equilibrium works and pick some ideas from that. And the main idea from this is that I'm getting is like, we're not looking to call that much. We don't want to be like calling, check folding bunch of flops because we have risk premium on our calls. Instead, we want to forbet jam, put pressure back on him. So this is our general strategy, and then like we go and make adjustment based on our reads on populations. Okay, moving on to the next one. Our opponent has to incentivize us to make sure if no bluffs, we chill out. Yeah. So yeah, this is what we looked now. Yeah, this is actually a different spot. This is a spot where we have asymmetric stack sizes where he covers us, 26 against 32. So I think this is this spot here. Yeah, so we are 26 big blinds on the cutoff, and he's 3-betting us with a bigger stack. This is, I think, very common scenario, and I think this is like very easily super over bluff spot. So as you can see here, he's supposed to 3-bet like 9.9%, and he's like supposed to see a7 off here and say okay, or a8 off and say okay, like I have to fold this because I cannot 3-bet all of my combos, you know, like ace9 off, he can 3-bet only like 20% of the time, and I can easily see people just taking like ace9 off always, ace8 off always. So this is very easily over bluff spot. So take a look in this, and even if it's not over bluff, even if he's in line, we get to jam quite wide, because this is our way to defend our opening range, right? Because if we cannot call, we need to adjust our strategies differently, right? We cannot, like, if there is a risk premium involved, we now need to switch to 4-bet jamming instead of calling. When we're playing for chips, it's different. Like we can call and we can just stack off with 10-8 top pair, or like call 2 times with our middle pairs, which is not going to be the case. Like bluff catching is going to be way harder when there is ICM. Okay, moving on to the multi-way. So multi-way on the left side, you see how it works when we're playing for chips. So the spot is big blind versus low jack open button flats. So is bluffing itself also adversely impacted the risk? It's just feel like interesting. Yeah, like also like you also have the, like on all whenever you go all in, you basically have risk premium, you know. So like it's just, but it's more on the guy on like you don't want just to make it simple. You just don't want to be the last guy calling. Basically, you want that this is the worst spot, you know. So this is where like you have to add. So if the risk premium is like 10%, so you look at your pot odds. You think about what my hand versus range has, and you add on the top of that another like 10% risk premium. So it's going to be very hard to be bluff catching, right? Yeah. So as for multi-way, as you can see here, when we are playing for chips, we get to call super wide, like stuff like 8-5 off, 9-6 off, whatever, king 5 off, king 6 off, all ace-x. However, when there is again risk premium, ranges are going to be stronger, and we want to go to the tighter ranges, as we can see on the right side with multi-way. So we start losing like our bad offsuit ace-x. So this is like very important, not bleeding money basically with bad offsuit. I mean, again, like if you're up against a population that is not going to be aggressive enough, yeah, we can get away with defending a little bit wider, but still keep in mind that this is our adjustment that we want to make. Again, we see how we choose our bluffs. So this is our 3-bet non-all-in strategy. We go jack ace queen for value basically with 30 big blinds, and our bluffs are basically going to be bottom of our opening range and stuff that has block like this, blocker, unblocker, like ace-3, ace-deuce. So good blocker, good unblocker. These are usually going to be very good candidates in the most ICM spots. These blocker and blocker type stuff, ace-3, ace-deuce off. It's going to be sometimes king deuce, king 3 suited. Now it's bottom of the range, queen 3, queen deuce suited, really good candidates to go, because like we're not really happy calling them, but we have some sort of blocker. We also have unblockers, so we're unblocking all this milling part that both of these guys are going to raise, call, and fold against the raise. Okay, so moving on to again multi-way spot, big blind. This is when the range is a little bit wider. So big blind against button raise and small blind call. So this is again a spot where I think this is all of these spots are at 25% of the field. So I think these are the spots where most of the population is missing these jams here. So what is good about these jams? They get to fold out a lot of hands that we're dominated by. So let's take a closer look at this. So 30 big blinds, multi-way, big blind button, small blind, 25% field, multi-way, big blind, button, small blind, and take a look at the ranges, right? So we have a button opening pretty wide range as expected, and then we have small blind calling pretty like it's basically almost dead money. Like he's not going to be calling that much, so we can look at him almost like a dead money. He's not going to have any strong hands. I mean, any super strong hands at least. So he's going to be folding to our raises a lot. However, he has these kind of hands that we don't want to go. So for example, he has king queen off, king jack off, and I expect people to have it even with a higher frequency in these positions. So this type of stuff suited broadways like jack 10, queen 10, queen 9, jack 9, 10, 9, like they're all dominated by this offsuit part here and offsuit part here from this guy. So we get to fold out all of that, just jamming instead of calling and playing 3-way with this region here. So I like this a lot. So I think this is just going to be a great adjustment to go with jams a little bit wider. Again, we can see that with calling we need to be more careful, so we're not completing 3-way with bad stuff. Like even some suited hands we're folding. Again, we see similar trend, blocker and blocker going for 3-bet non-all-in bluff, ace deuce off, ace 3 off, ace 4 off. Bottom of our calling range. So queen 9 we call, queen 8 off we start mixing calls and non-all-in 3-bets. King 6 off we call sometimes, king 5 off we start non-all-in 3-bets. So this can also be a rule of thumb. It's easier to remember in game because you cannot like remember all of the combos, but you can see like you can feel basically which type of hand is like good as a call and which type of hand, like if it's between calling and folding, then and has a blocker and unblocker, this is usually going to be a good candidate to non-all-in 3-bet. Yeah, and yeah, remembering these gems, like try to think about how many hands, like if you're dealing with wide ranges and how many better hands that we are dominated by, we can fold out by jam. And yeah, these suited Broadway type hands are going to have a pretty decent equity when called, same as these low pocket pairs. Okay, we're gonna move to the called 4-bet range. So this is also one of the spots where I think there is a lot of this stuff missed. So this is when small blind 3-bet against the button. So this we can look at as a called 4-bet. Called 4-bet. So big blind versus button open. Button open, small blind 3-bet. So this is going to be the spot. So as we can see here, we are still gonna we'll look at the button's wide opening range, and then small blind is going to respond obviously to that with a bunch of non-all-in 3-bets, which I think population is doing correctly. I see people doing this stuff like, yeah, someone opens on the button, you have like king jack off, you have ace 10 off, you have ace 9 off, 3-bet, why not? Like I think this is what population is finding. However, what I don't see is the big blind respond to that action, right? So we have a button opening here. What is this, like 43%? And then we have another 11%, which only like what very few of these hands are going to be able to call. And then when it gets to us on the big blind, we still get to jam like pretty wide. I mean, even king queen off is making money jamming. King 10 suited, king jack suited, all of these hands are going to be making money with a jam because they're going to be forced to fold a lot, right? And this is like all of these high cards are going to have good blockers. So being aware of how wide population's ranges are, how wide they're gonna like open a 3-bet, and responding to that is quite important. So yeah, this is one of the spots that I don't see people go wide enough. So this is now a spot where we're at 17.5%. This is usually somewhere close to the bubble. Depends, like in some tournaments are going to pay 15%, some are going to pay 12%. But anyway, this is going to be close to the bubble spot. And what is the difference that I see? What is the adjustments that we should do? Is this is big blind versus button, right? And we have 22 big blinds on the big blind, and button has 38. So this is again one of the really common spots, right? So what I see here is like a lot of these hands that are supposed to jam end up calling, which is pretty. So especially these type of hands like Jack 9 suited, the Jack 8 suited, the Queen 10 suited, Jack 10 suited, like all of these hands are going to be dominated by his offsuit cards, right? So he's going to open, like button is going to open like stuff like Queen 9 off, he's going to open stuff like Queen 10 off, and we just get to fold out all of that with jamming. So he's and also if you look into this, I think button is really going to overfold here. So yeah, tell me like what for you guys? Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, so let's have a quick pull. So let's say you're the guy with on the button with 38 blinds, you open near the bubble, big blind who has 22 jams on you. What is your calling range? So what you call off 22 big blinds? So give me the range, like which pairs, which ace-x, and if you call like some suited broadways and stuff. Yeah, I don't know how can I. Yeah, just type the range basically that you call, like, yeah, make it like, I don't know, 7s plus, 6s plus, ace 8 off plus, whatever you feel like calling in this spot. So you're on the button, you raised, you have 38 blinds, you're near the bubble, big blind jams for 22. What is your calling range? 6s, ace 10 off, ace 9 suited. Let's see a few more. 7, ace 10 suited, ace jack off, king jack suited, ace 9 suited. Okay. Ace 10 off, ace. Okay, so you guys are pretty similar. 8, ace 10. Okay. So let's find this spot. Okay, 17.5. But we need asymmetric step sizes, and this was what, 33 average. 54. No, we are looking. Yeah, this one. So versus 3-bet button versus big blind. Okay. So as you can see here, it's similar that you guys mentioned. So 6s plus, ace 8 suited, ace 9 off is basically the range. Yeah, like Gimli said, like exactly. I mean, pretty much. But as you can see, like, so some of you are going to call 8, some of you are going to call 7s. So like, there is no one who said like who's going to call wider than this, right? So that means, in my opinion, that population is either going to call close to this or overfold, which means that as a big blind here, we should stay, or even like at least stay with this jamming range. And if they're going to overfold, even expand this jamming range, right? So yeah, and this is I think very important to remember, that when we're dealing with, especially with these stack sizes of 20 blinds, 18 blinds, where we're going to have a really tough time playing post-flop close to the bubble, because he's going to be able to just put a lot of pressure on us with the small bets, right? He can bet small on the flop, he can bet again on the turn, and it's going to be pretty hard for us to like realize equity with, especially this kind of 22 big blind is pretty bad. So it's easier to call with like 15 or 13 or 12, where we can just stack off way wider. However, this is a little bit of the problem, because we're gonna have especially with this type of middle hands, we're gonna flop a lot of middle pairs that are gonna have tough time realizing equity. So instead of that, when we are facing wide, big stack opening range, responding to his aggression is going to be by aggression, not by passiveness. So this is also like a theme to remember, right? So whenever someone is aggressive, like when the way to combat that is not to be like passive and like do calling and check folding, but it's more of like being playing aggressive against him. Yeah, or just look at his fold percent. Yeah, I mean, he's just gonna fold like 78% of the time, like, and this is true. Like you know that from, so when you jam to someone opening on the button, you know he's gonna fold a lot. Like it's just gonna be very unlikely that he find a hand that can call you. But yeah, it feels like we have this kind of selective memory, where when we jam and he has whatever kings and we bust, we are remembering that very, very good, you know. But when we jam and he just folds, which happens most of the time, we're like, oh, okay, all good. So try to remember that, like, they're just gonna fold a lot, and the times they call us, we're still gonna have equity. We're never dead, right? I'd say that's more true in ICM environment than GPV. Okay. So any questions about this, or we switch to final table? So this was all about like soft ICM adjustments, and we're going to talk now a little bit more about final table ICM. And there's value in letting aggro players blast off too, right? But that's something we won't. Yeah, I mean, this is there is no, like, we need to think about in terms of like equity realization, right? So with our entire range, yeah, like we have some super strong hands that we want to, but that we want to let them be aggressive. So maybe we can slow play aces or whatever. But the problem is like we need to think about equity realization, right? So he is. It's important for us to not let him realize equity and to basically combat his aggressiveness by being aggressive ourselves, right? Not to let him see flops and then see bet and then see turns when he is opening such a wide range, Okay, hope that makes sense. He can overrealize, yeah, if we are too passive. Yeah, exactly. And on post flop also, it's going to translate to the post flop play as well. So we're going to play more check folds, but also more check raises than in GPV, because we don't want to let him see turns and barrel off the turns. He's going to hit the equity on the turn, so we just don't want to allow that when he's starting with such a wide range. Again, yeah, we see there is no slow plays here. This is the way to the reason for this is because he needs to, when we 3-bet with aces, he still needs to combat with it. So this is also like really tough to play for him. When we 3-bet, he still he's opening wide range and he needs to call and jam a bunch, because this is also, I think, a really good spot to exploit, because it's going to be really hard to play as a big blind here against as a bottom here against 3-bet. So this is how he plays. He needs to call all of this stuff. He needs to jam suited aces, ace deuce to ace seven. Then he needs to jam offsuit aces as well. So it's kind of hard to find all of these jams. And yeah, calls I guess they're gonna find, but all of these jams is gonna be a little bit hard to find. Jamming like ace 4 off almost always, ace 5 off almost always, ace 6 off half of the time, ace deuce off half of the time. So yeah, this is going to be hard to find, and I think as a big blind we can increase. This is what we get to raise. It's 4.6%. I think we can expand with our bluffs. Again, our bluffs are again going to be bottom of our calling range with some sort of blocker. I mean, even we have even bottom of the opening range even without a blocker sometimes, like this type of stuff, 9-5, 10-4. Okay. People can just re-enter. Okay. So let's jump to the final table spots. So some of the spots that I see population is playing differently, that equilibrium and maybe like not understanding ICM situations well enough is this. So open shoving too much from like short stacks, being between like 12 to 17 big blinds. You need to keep in mind that when you have these kind of stacks, like open shoving should be like, especially when there is a lot of people to act behind. So it should be the last options that you consider, because you're going to be able to get way better decisions by just min raising or raising any size than just going all in. It's very easy to play against all in. There is not much they can. There is not many mistakes that they can do. So defending big blind too wide versus big stack. So this is going to be the same trend as we saw before at 17.5. So when there is big risk premium, when chip leader opens, we want to be responding by playing aggressive, like 3-betting non all-in, rejamming instead of like calling and playing post flop against the big stack. I mean, obviously, as you can see, there is still some hands that are very natural calls, but we need to think about expanding our 3-bet jamming range. So yeah, like this is the third rejamming 2-liter versus big stack. So same thing as before. Rejamming pocket. So this is one thing that I see also. Like this is, for example, spots where we're at the big blind. We have 20 big blinds. And then button opens from 20 big blinds stacked on final table, and we see pocket eights, and we're like, oh, 20 big blinds open from jam from button. Let's just jam eights, which doesn't really make sense, right? If you think about it, he's not even opening buttons, so she's opening like a super polar range, which is going to be something similar to hijack or even low jack in some cases when there is more raise premium. So we need to think about what is his range exactly and what we are trying to accomplish. So if we have eights, for example, do we jam for value? Do we jam as a bluff? Like, is he gonna raise call fives? If the answer is no, so what's the point of jamming? So versus king, we want ace 3 off rather than 6-6. Exactly. This is also a good point, right? So when we have we want to have blockers, because like what we want to, so when we are basically 3-bet jamming is a bluff, we just want him to fold. So how we make most folds? Having an ace which blocks his calling range. This is the way, and also having a deuce or a 3 having unblocks his folds. So the biggest chance that he's gonna fold when we bluff rejam is when we hold this type of hands, ace deuce off, ace 3 off, because we have blocker and unblocker, right? And again, calling 3-bets too much. This is going to be the same as we saw before. So like facing 3-bets on final tables, we're not going to be interested in doing much callings. Again, there's going to be exceptions, but we're going to look to play back by forwarding instead of forwarding either normally or forward jamming rather than calling. Let's look at some examples. So at open shoving too much. So this is going to be the first example. When so let's open this 17 big blinds, final table 6 max, average 17. So final table 6 max, average 17. But the stacks are like this, I believe. And we look at the hijack range. So we have someone with 9 blinds, and we're at hijack with 12. So you saw the range before, and the range we're gonna play from hijack is pretty tight, and there is really not that much jamming, only 2.7%, right? So this is and now we can see RPs, right? So versus we have, like, depending against which player, but we have a pretty big risk premium, right? Because there is a guy with 9 big blinds that is likely to bust if you fold, and especially when the stacks are like this, they're going to be going all in against each other very often. So we want to play pretty tight range, and again, very oriented towards blockers, right? So we see opening ace 9 off, king 10 off, king jack off, but folding stuff like 7, even 8s are folding like more often than raising, right? So why is that? Because we don't, with 8s, we don't block any of their, so we have basically like four or 5 rejam ranges, right? So we don't block any of the rejam ranges, and we cannot really raise call. Like if you raise and they jam a range that has like 2 overcards a lot, we're just not going to be able to call because we need to add this. So let's say like bottom jams. I mean, he can have a wide range, but let's say cutoff jams, and he has some sort of range, and we need to add 12% risk premium to the pot odds that we are getting, and it's not going to be possible to call with 8s when we add that much risk premium. So this is why this range looks like this, and open shoving should be just with hands that are just we can think about it's just like too good to raise fold, yeah, like we cannot raise call with them. So like the ace queen type hands, ace king, king queen suited broadways are usually going to be candidates to do that, and then we're going to have some bluff like this. Yeah, and there's going to be similar spots to that where we just want to think. So even here, like when we are low jack with 12, so let's look at this. Similar, like low jack 12 big blind has 9. Similar stack distribution, we want to be careful about our open jams. So stuff like 7s, which is pure fold. We open jam just few of the hands, and yeah, like having this non-all-in raising strategy is just going to be much better than open shoving with 5 people behind. Next up, defending big blind 2 wide versus big stack. So this is going to look very similar to what we saw before. So this is like 20 versus 40 blinds, big blind versus button again. So I'm giving these common examples just to take just to have like idea of how strategies are working, and then we can think about how we implement that, right? So as you can see here again, on final table, even now we have one stack with a 10 big blinds. So this is a common spot where people become too tight and basically too passive more than too tight. They're not too tight. Like I can see people call here like king 7 off or like all suited hands, but not rejam anywhere close to this. So, and what ends up there, because they're thinking, oh, there is this 10 big blinds, I need to be tight, I need to wait him to bust. But we forget that we're facing a like 42% opening range that is going to fold like 80% of the time when we jam. So why not take it, especially in these kind of situations here? Like basically we're taking the chip lead. This is also not even calculated in HRC, because when we take the chip lead here, we're going to have much more chance to win the tournament, and our EV is going to be much higher. So like gambling basically here makes a lot of sense. For sure, yeah, they can easily raise fold a ton here. So yeah, and it's not like it's not, and people also say, oh, it's a big variance, like, but it's not when you think about it, it's not really a big variance, because like when you jam, it's higher variance to call and then like see flops and then go to the turn and then end up with the smaller stacks, and then like next hand the blinds go up and then you have to shove anyway. So better shove when you have the opportunity to shove against a wide range and get folds like almost always. Button can easily raise for even more. Yeah, like I can see people like deuces and threes are pure folds. King 6 off, king 5 off. I can see people. I mean, I would first raise like king 5 off, king 6 off, queen 8 off, jack 8 off. I would raise all of these hands on the button. So I can easily see people going way wider here. So jamming with I think that from this kind of range, the stuff that population is missing is some of these offsuit ace X, and some of these like queen 9, queen 8, jack 8, 10 9 suited stuff. I think these are the main ones. They end up calling way more often than jamming, and I think population also end up calling more of these stuff against the big stack, where it's just going to be hard to play post flop, even if they're not competent, right? Even if they're not that good, right? Everyone knows how to see bet. So if you see, for example, if you see in solvers that jamming is the play based on the ranges, it's going to be almost impossible to outperform that post flop when you're out of position, even if you have the edge, right? Even if you're a much better player, it's going to be really hard to outperform jamming, because you get to realize 100% every single time. And that's not going to be the case when you're out of position versus big stack with risk premium. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. This is also the really good point. Yeah. Like and these are all the hands that just folds out so many, like queen 8 suited, for example, folds out like queen 9 off, queen 10 off, queen jack off. Like all of these option hands consist a big part of his range. So we get to fold out all of these, right? Okay, so the next is going to be rejamming pocket pairs to white. Yeah, this is the spot that I talked about before. So when we're on the big blind versus cutoff, this is like same situation, but we are now 20 against 20. So we're up against the cutoff range, who we still so cutoff range, how we think it's going to look here. It's going to be pretty tight, right? So like we have low jack with 10 blinds that folded. He has button on 40 blinds that is going to play aggressive against him. And he has 2 real shot stacks. So like he's not going to open anything close to cutoff range, right? It's like cutoff range is usually what, 35%. And he's not going to open even 15, right? So we need to think about like how wide, like if he's opening 15%, that's more like a low jack range. So instead of looking at big blind versus cutoff, we say, oh, like, but he's opening like low jack range, he's going to have some open shoves maybe. And what's the way to play against that? So So for example, I see like very commonly people jam like nines here, right? So you're on the big blind, someone open, and you're like, oh, 20 blinds, nice, let's go. But if you ask yourself, like, what I'm trying to accomplish here, so am I jamming? Ask yourself, am I jamming for value, right? So if you're jamming for value with nines, am I getting called from hands that I'm dominating? And the answer is probably going to be no, because I think cutoff here, he's going to just straight open fold sixes and sevens. I don't even know if he's raise calling. I think let's take a look. I think sevens are not going to be really that good raise call. So what is that? That is 6 max, 22 average. 6 max, 22. This one, yeah. So if you look at the cutoffs opening range, so yeah, like sevens are folding pre-flop. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying people are not going to do that. I mean, I feel like they're definitely going to do something with sevens, either jam or raise or whatever. But still, if you have nines on the big blind, you should ask yourself how often he's going to raise call with stuff that I'm dominating. And the answer is really, the answer is going to be really not that often, because like what his raise calling range is going to look something like this, right? 10 ace queen suited, maybe nines, right? But he's not going to raise call fives or something. So when you jam with nines, you're either going to be dead against his pocket pairs or flipping against ace king, ace queen. So rather than jamming nines, better jam deuces or threes or fours. At least like it's the same basically. The result is going to be the same, but at least with nines you can play better post flop. They're going to play better post flop, and with these like you can. They're poor post flop, and yeah, they have better unblockers, so it's better to jam those. Again, we see like suited ace x being a really good candidates here, because that's the way we think here is like how we get him to. So he's folding like 95.6% of the time, and how he gets to fold more when we have an ace in our hand. Yeah, this is going to be a team where we are facing. This is going to be a team when we're facing like a polar opening ranges, polar and strong opening ranges. So the last thing for today is going to be this is also a spot where I see population playing really wrong with a big stack. So 54 versus 18, so with 28 average, 8 max. So let's take a look at that. 8 max, what I said, like 28 average. So yeah, like big blind versus button. Okay, so this is the spot where someone has 6 big. This is extreme spot, right? So EP has 6 big blinds and he folded, but this is common on final tables that someone in super short, and the button is having a huge risk premium against the big blind, right? 15% and 14 against small blind. So he needs to play really tight strategy with like some open jamming and very polar raising range. So to combat that, we're not gonna jam, like we're not gonna take now like fives or sixes or whatever, or even suited aces and jam to him. So instead, our strategy is gonna be to call a lot, and then because we over realize this is a spot where we over realize possible, because we have a big stack, we are allowed to lead some boards. So like any low boards that he's not going to be connected with, we get to lead. So we are over realizing post flop, and the way to like attack him is not by jamming, because it's easy to play. He just have a polar range, right? So he either like have a snap call or snap fold, right? So instead we basically hit him with a small normal in 3-bet, and this is going to be way harder to play against. So so this is his opening range. Let's see, like bottom versus 3-bet, so bottom versus big blind. So when he faces a 3-bet, yeah, and this is also interesting. So because our range is polar, he needs to play. He's just playing like call or fold. He's not jamming anything. This is interesting. Ah, no. Is this versus all in? No. Fold 66 call. small raising to get, yeah, and lose minimum versus top end. Exactly, yes. So it's just, when we look again, bottom versus big blind, it's just like, always think about what his range and what you're trying to accomplish with your. So like I see people jam here 7s or 8s or 9s, which is again like, what's the point, right? So you jam 7s to get called by what? Like, are you bluffing with 7s? So why would you bluff with 7s, right? You're not really going to get called by 5s, or we use jams with pocket pairs to deny equity sometimes, but that happens when we're facing a really wide opening range with a lot of offsuit stuff. He doesn't even have offsuit stuff in his opening range, right? So just few. And yeah, this is why it's important to always think about, especially when ICM is involved, there's going to be always adjustments in the ranges, and think about what we want to do against a specific range rather than staying with our like normal strategy that we're used to. Again, same thing we see as for choosing candidates to non-all-in raise. We see that usually going to be a bottom of our calling range with some blocker and unblocker, like king 4 off, queen 3 off, ace deuce off, even these type of stuff that are towards the bottom of our range. This is like basically 2 unblockers, like unblocks every stuff in the middle, and yeah, we get to 3-bet fold with that. Yeah, button actually gets to jam pretty wide in this spot. Yeah, because this is his way, because he's not, he don't want to. This is the reason why is basically because he don't want to min raise and let big blind call of all of this stack, all of these hands, and play possible against the big stack. So instead, he just plays a strategy that is towards open jamming. And also because if he raise, because this is the problem, right? So versus small blind, he has risk premium of what, 6%, and against a big blind he has of risk premium of 15. So he's not able to raise call that many hands, and this is why he play heavy open shoving strategy. Could you show big blind calling versus jam? Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is big blind calling versus jam. 5s, ace 9 suited, ace 9 off, and I think even this is pretty realistic. Even I can see some more folding even here. So yeah, this is also thing we still, when we're this kind of 18, 15 big blind stack, and when we're in the late position, we still need to fight for chips. Like it's just, we cannot just sit and wait for someone shorter to bust. Especially like this is very common, especially when you see the good adjustments in ICM will be like when you see other players in the table are just playing too tight. We just need to play aggressive. We just need to fight for flops, because there is a fight for pots, because there is a low chance that we're gonna getting pay jams, that they're gonna bust, right? Because they're gonna be playing tight. If we are playing in a group of like 4 maniacs on the table, yeah, that's probably a good spot to sit and wait and let them bust themselves. But that's usually not the case. I think with short stacks, especially, like population is like playing a little bit too tight. And if you look at the small blinds, small blind is also going to have a pretty wide open jamming range against the big stack, right? So he open jams like 33%, a lot of stuff. If they're too tight, they leave EV on the table. We can capture that by filling in that empty space with aggression. Yep. Okay, guys, like let's go to any questions that you have. So yeah, as per common, soft ICM, once again, to cover, like, yeah, be careful about calling 3-bets, be more aggressive with 4-bet jams, be careful about defending too wide. With final table adjustments, like make sure that choose your hands wisely when choosing to open shove, especially when there is more players behind. And as you can see here on the button, is different situation. We get to shove way more, especially when There is a big stack on the big blind. We don't want to let him call and punish us post-flop. Defending big blind to wide versus big stack. This is a common theme that we already covered many times. Re-jamming too little. So switch some hands from defending to jamming, especially hands that can fold out offshoot part of his opening range that dominates you. So like Queen 8 can fold out Queen 8, Queen 9 off, Queen 10 off, Queen Jack off. So as many as you can fold, the better your jam becomes. Yeah, this is rejamming pocket pairs against strong ranges. This is also important to think about. Like whenever facing strong range, we don't want to jam like 8s or 9s. Always ask yourself what I'm trying to accomplish. Am I shying for value or as a bluff? If it's as a bluff with poker pairs, can I fold? Am I shoving to deny equity from a wide range? And if the answer is like his range, yes, but his range is not that wide, then like, there is no point really in jamming. And yeah, I'm not calling three-bets too much. This we didn't even cover that much, but yeah, like if you look at any spots on the final tables when we face a three-bet. So for example, like low jack versus button here, or low jack against cutoff in this scenario. A low jack against cutoff. Well, we're gonna see that there is not gonna be that many calls. So 32 against 42. Try to visually arrange always. Yeah, even if it's wrong, it makes you think with time will go. Yeah, like it's just with practice you get better at it always. It's very important. Like mark always your spots. Look at the final table replays on YouTube. Then you can run your own sims and try to test yourself, like try to run sims and before you see the answer, try to test yourself. And don't believe sims, don't believe everything you see. Just try to understand it, you know, like try it, like ask yourself, does that make sense to me, right? If it doesn't make sense, like ask someone else, ask friends, like what is this, like this doesn't make sense to me, so I want to know why this is happening. Just don't try to copy what you see, basically. Yeah, it's not about remembering, it's just like trying to learn from what we see, and yeah, just make it fun. I mean, it's just looking at final table replays and trying to guess what would you do, what solver would do, what are the exploits against population. It's super fun. I think this is the best way to learn. And also, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes, like whatever, like it's just this is how we learn. So you just go on final table, you make mistakes, you're gonna have another final table, you're gonna be better, like you did the best you can at the moment, so next time you're gonna do better. Just don't afraid to make mistakes. Just go whatever feels natural and right to you in the moment. Oh, we know to instead of taking the time result, this is the range. Yeah, like autopiloting is just the biggest, I mean, for me was for a long time a really big problem, you know. It's just like instead of like trying to be engaged and have fun, like autopiloting and just trying to grind, it's just not gonna do well results wise, and it's just not fun. How long are you engaged with poker? Well, I guess 10 years, a little bit less. Yeah, a little bit less maybe. Yeah, around 10 years, I'd say. Like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I really started like doing well. Yeah, but like last 3 years, let's say, I'm like running super good. I mean, there is just a lot of luck involved. It's just, but I mean, I'm having a lot of fun for like 4 or 5 years for sure. Even though at some points I didn't have really great results, but it's just It's just part of the job. I agree with that. It's absolutely vital. It's just I mean, everyone is gonna run hot eventually. Like, it's just, and that's not something we control. It's just something that happens. But you can control if you're gonna play to autopilot and to grind whatever like, I don't know. But I mean, you're more engaged and a little better for sure. Not really. I went to study a little bit in university, but didn't do that well. 1 year is all I done. You gotta love the process, mastering the work over chasing the end results. Yeah, it is for sure true. It's hard. It's for sure, like it's in everything else. It's not only in poker, it's in like sports, in everything. Like if you're just chasing trophies and stuff and money, it's not gonna really work that well, I believe. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, we'll just get to play the game we love for and make a living of it. Like, who can ask for more, right? And it's easy to forget that sometimes, like when you're not running well, it's very easy to forget that. But yeah, keep that in mind, guys. It's just, yeah, it's a game after all. Exactly. Makes me grow. This is so true. Yeah, like we're definitely gonna become better persons playing and competing and learning. Okay, guys. Let's see if there is any more questions. Yeah, thank you, Gio. Thank you. um, thanks for the session and good luck out there. Are you gonna do more? Thank you, Deep into Murder. Yeah, thank you guys. I guess I'm gonna do some more in future. Yeah, we're gonna keep in touch and see you guys next time. Thanks everyone for participating. Good luck at the tables, whoever plays today. Have fun and see you around. Bye guys.